Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Yetunde Oshunbi.
A very good morning to you, and I'm Aaron Isaac.
And today is the 24th of March, and on this day in 2003, the Arab League voted 21 against 1 in favor of a resolution demanding the immediate and unconditional removal of U.S. and British soldiers from Iraq.
Yes, also on this day in 1975, Muhammad Ali takes on Chuks Wepner in a 15-round bout heavyweight boxing title.
And on our lineup for today, we will be giving you security tips that will help you stay alive.
Sure, I know you don't want to miss out from on that one now. And yes, also we'll be discussing Adamawa Economic Summit with the theme revenue deficit and challenges of development.
Sure. And also on Success Clinic today, Bolaji Adams will be telling you how to build your own house cheaper and faster. Up next is newspaper headlines from our national dailies right after this break.
India is celebrating a major public health victory over a different killer. Now, the government says that despite incredible challenges, it has eradicated polio. The World Health Organization is expected to make it official on March 27th. Let's see this report.
On a bright winter morning, while the adults sew and stitch, the children of Howrah district run around nearby. One finds it difficult to keep up. Rukhsar Khatun is India's last known polio victim, diagnosed with the disease 3 years ago. When she runs, her feet hurt, her father says. Papa, I am tired. Then she has to sit down, he tells us. I feel so bad. Her situation is tough, but it's a lot worse for Meghan Kumar, one of the millions of people in India crippled by polio. He struggled to even get to New Delhi St. Stephen's Hospital, hoping to get surgery so he can at least stand.
It takes the dignity out of a person's life. To be crawling on fours like an animal, I think that's terrible.
Dr. Verghese runs India's only dedicated polio ward, also hopefully the country's last.
This is indeed an historic day.
India is now polio-free. It's one of the biggest global public health achievements of recent times and a triumph for India's government and partners that fought the disease. Polio usually affects children under the age of 5 when they drink contaminated water. It then affects the nervous system, causing muscular atrophy, disfiguration and paralysis.
The population density, the insanitary conditions, impure drinking water, malnourishment, and the highest incidence of enteric diseases anywhere in the world. Now, the confluence of all these factors made India such a difficult place from where to get polio out.
Despite all the odds, India defeated the disease with mass vaccinations. More than 2 million health officials went door to door to give millions of children polio drops.
Did you ever think you would see the end of polio in India in your lifetime?
No, I never thought so. I never thought so.
It's too late for Rukhsar. She can never be cured. The disease can only be prevented. But hopefully, there'll be no more children in her footsteps.
Wow, they say we are this close to eradicating polio in Nigeria.
This
All right, I just hope we are. And if the city you live in fell into crisis and horror and you have to survive for 72 hours, what would you do? Many say, let's face it, might not be able to survive it. With the security challenges facing the Northeast, what safety measures should you observe to help you stay alive? Lionel Rawlins, a UN security coordinator, is here to give us security tips to help us stay alive. Good morning, Lionel.
I should say, how far?
And it's, well, today is not Fulani, neither is
No,
Hausa,
he's trying
so
to be
it's,
a true Nigerian.
Yeah.
How far?
Yeah, I'm talking pidgin.
Pidgin now.
Yeah, okay, today is
I'm
Pigeon
learning
Day.
pidgin day.
I thought you said it's going to be Yoruba Day, so I was expecting you to say a
No,
Karo or
he's putting on an attire that comes from the Niger Delta.
Niger Delta, yeah.
I'm Niger Deltaran today. You like my outfit?
Yeah, I so love it.
I dressed just for you, just so you know that.
Thank you very much for
And
dressing for me.
you disclose, not dressing for me.
We are looking, please, you need to give Aaron some security tips this morning.
All right, then, very good
so
morning.
that you wouldn't fall into a situation where we hardly, can help him out. Well, this morning we are looking at security tips in helping us survive in a scenario where you have crisis and people don't know what to do. What should be the first thing to be identified, within a particular environment?
Well, the first thing you have to do is to do some planning. You have to have a plan. What would I do if the city fell into crisis? And you don't need to worry about the police and the army because they have their plans. What about you as the individual? What would you do? If you have a wife and you have 2 children, depending on the age of the children, what would you do? Where will you go? Will they know what to do? So the first thing people have got to do, and I know we don't do it and people don't do it because you never ever think it's going to happen to you. But you do know it's important, but you never say, well, let me sit and plan. The first thing people need to do, if you're listening out there, get your family and come up with a plan. If this happens, this is what we will do. This is where we will go. This is how we will react. Have some phone numbers to call, maybe family members in Lagos, Abuja, somewhere. Have some amount of food that you can put away, like beans and stuff. And yes, water. Water is crucial. So make sure you have like some bottled water just tucked away. Keep them there for a couple of weeks until then change them and replace them. But planning is the #1 thing. And people should start doing that right now. First thing, plan. What are you going to do?
Am I seeing you saying that people should discuss the issue of security within the family and project in anticipation of a sudden crisis? Is that exactly what you're saying?
Absolutely. That's the first thing, the first order of business in any security situation in a home or family. Husband and wife and children have got to sit down and determine if there is a war, a bomb drop in the city, or some shooters came and shoot up the city, or there's an outbreak of a disease or something, what will you do? What will we do? What happens if I die as the husband? What does the wife do? Do you contact my brother? Do you contact your brother? Who are the first people to call? And what do we do with the children? What if both of us died and the children survived? It doesn't even have to be for a crisis situation. It could be driving in a car. You could be driving from here to Mubi. There's a car accident. Mom and dad is dead. What happens to the children? So make these plans right now and start focusing on where to go. If this happens, where do we go? Do we go to the mosque? Do we go to the church? If we have a car, do we drive to Gombe? Where do we go? And because the police could say, stay home, don't move, don't travel, don't leave, because the situation is so
how
bad.
How safe is your home at that particular period?
Absolutely. So then what do you do? Because that's a very good point. How safe is your home if the police say, don't travel, don't leave, stay at home, because it's too risky to be on the streets? Then what do you do? How do you protect your home? If you have to stay at home for 3 days, do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? So that is why it is necessary to, each time you go to the grocery, get some food, get some rice and have it, put it aside. Get some beans and put it aside. Get some canned meat or canned goods and put it aside. just so in case of an emergency. Now, you may go through life and never have to use none of these, which will be good for you. But on the day that it happens, you want to be prepared. And then, if people know that you are prepared and you have food in your house, they're going to come and rob you.
Another factor to consider again there. But what happened in a situation where people have developed a culture of relying solely on the law enforcement agent to protect them? Now, rather than really trying to see what they can do for themselves. I know, yes, there is a cliche that says security starts with you, the individual. You are the first person that is supposed to protect yourself first. But if you look at the Nigerian society, we have a situation where everybody tend to rely on the security operatives that we have on ground without actually seeing how well they could protect themselves by themselves.
That's a very good point. But it's not just in Nigeria, by the way, it happens all over the world. People, for some reason, they don't want to associate with the police. They call the police the oppressors or the military. But as soon as something happens, the first person you call is the police or the military. So the police is not your enemy, he's your friend. And the soldier is not your enemy, he is your friend. So start thinking that way. We have been institutionalized as a society to see these people as our first line of defense, and that anything happens, we should run to them. If, from what I was told, when things go wrong here in Nigeria, the first place people run is to the army barracks or the police barracks. It's because you've been institutionalized to think that. Why did you run there? Why didn't you just jump in your car and drive somewhere? Drive away. Drive to a neighboring city or town. Because we're not trained to think that way. We're trained to rely on the police. Yes, do rely on them and rely on the army, but make sure that you already have some plans for your family as well.
Plan B.
Plan B.
If they have plan A, then you should have plan B.
Because you got to remember, the army and the police, whatever is happening, they'll be busy fighting that or tackling that. So they probably can't offer you too much protection because they will try to help as much as they can, but they'll be out there handling and tackling whatever the situation or the crisis is at the moment. So you're going to have to do it yourself.
All right, identifying suspicious behavior is a factor that needs to be considered, but we're going to talk about that after this time out now. We have here Lionel Rawlins, AUN Security Coordinator, and he has been giving us security tips that will help people stay alive. We're back to continue this discussion after this break.
Welcome back. Our guest is Lionel Rawlins, and he has been giving us tips on how to stay alive with these security challenges the country is facing now. When we talk about security challenges, you have a scenario rather where you have a state of emergency. You have a scenario where networks have been shut down. There's no how you can make contacts. You can call anybody. You have curfew placed in the same place, and you don't know what in a situation like that, what do you do?
That's a very good question. Do nothing.
Do nothing and just stay home?
Just stay. Because many people have died trying to go out to find a place where they can make a phone call. Now, the good thing with technology is we have things like Twitter. And people, if you have internet, that is. People, that's how we get all the news that's going on in Syria. We know now what's going on in Turkey because Twitter they're shutting down Twitter because it's all that information. We do have things like WhatsApp and Viber and all these things. When we had that situation there, that similar to what you spoke about, At AUN, we had to use Skype and all that stuff because we were shut down for some days as well. But if it all fails, just sit tight and wait until somehow the system comes back. The people who are going to be worried and concerned most is your family members in another state who know you're here and they cannot communicate with you. But somehow they will find out. You always get a message out and get it out to them and try to get it as fast as possible that you're okay. But if all else fails, sit tight and do absolutely nothing. In the end, you will be okay.
But what if in a situation where you're not even getting reassurances from the government to tell you that, yes, the situation is under control? You know, there will be a very heightened tension around. And that one is more dangerous than even the tension that is already on ground.
It's true. One of the biggest problems is not knowing what's going on. And then you start hearing rumors. Your neighbors start saying, oh, they're coming to kill us. Which, who is they? And how do you know that? So you get up and you pack your family and you run, and then you run outside and you get shot. Either by the military, because they don't know who you are, accidentally, or you get shot by the bad people or whatever is going on. The best thing to do is stay put, stay indoors and do nothing. You don't know anything, no news is good news. Just sit there and wait until it passes.
But you know, earlier you mentioned the issue of you having water available, food. In a situation like this that took you unawares, you know, and you don't have enough at home. How long can you survive that?
Good. You guys are asking some very good questions because these are very important things to know, because the United Nations has a whole system that's planned out according to how many people, how many gallons of water you need. You actually need to have water for at least 3 days, 72 hours actually, because you would assume that within 72 hours, within 3 days, whatever is happening or going on, whatever the crisis is, that the military and the police would have been able to solve it to an extent that would allow you to get food and water. But for at least, you need to have enough water for 3 days, enough food, and then ration them. You can't have a big plate piled up this way of rice. You might want to have, you know, a couple of spoonfuls because you might be in for the long haul. You might be there for a week. But this is important stuff, and everyone out there listening need to know you need to start putting food away just for the rainy day. And after a few months and nothing happened, use it and replace it. Right. And always have water on hand, because when the time comes for you to drink or cook, you will have it.
All right, let's look at other crucial factors that needs to be considered when you're talking about a state of insecurity within a particular environment. Let's take, for instance, the place of suspicious behavior. How do one identify suspicious behavior when there is, say, a sudden change in the security pattern in an environment?
This is crucial. If you see people acting strange, then you need to say something to somebody. You cannot just say, oh, he's crazy, or he's just making a fool of himself. If you see a man wearing a big jacket, a big overcoat, here in Yola, on a day like today when it's...
With the weather like this.
There was something wrong. You need to call the police, because that man is either carrying a weapon or carrying a suicide vest, or he's doing something. Maybe he stole something. But it's unusual. Now, if you did call the police and the police pulled him over and said, sir, let me talk to you, I need to ask you a few questions, and it turned out that he had nothing, it's okay. It's okay. Right. Because, and we should be relieved that he had nothing, because I would rather pull him over and he had nothing than let him walk around with a bomb underneath his jacket. So anything to do with suspicious behavior, you see somebody standing outside the television station, he doesn't work here, he doesn't do anything, but every day he's out there watching, looking, taking pictures of people going in and coming out. That's odd. You have to say something. You know, maybe he loved the television. Maybe he's doing a journalistic piece.
His own research.
His own research. But we want to know that, and you would want and should want to know that. These are odd and unusual behavior. So if you see these things happening in your school, outside your church or your mosque, outside your house, say something. Call somebody and say something.
So something just occurred to me now. Take for instance, you're walking on a street alone and you have someone following you up. You notice the person is right behind you. When you turn, the person suddenly stopped and, you know, pretend to be doing other things. And there is no police station close by. There is nobody you can call. Would it be right to walk up to the person and ask him, why is he following you? Would it be right, you know, put up a challenge with the person?
No, don't do that. The best thing to do is to run.
Run.
Run for safety, yes. I know you want to say run for safety,
Run.
yes.
And if he starts running behind you, start screaming.
Okay, just draw attention.
Yes, and then if you scream, don't say help, say fire.
Ah, fire.
Why say fire?
Because everybody's afraid of fire, and you don't know if it's your house on fire, so you will look out. But if you scream, help, help, a man is chasing me, people are going to lock down and say, that's not my business, stay out of that. And they will sit inside the house and sleep and not pay attention. But if you start screaming, fire, 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 people are going to look outside to see,
where the fire is coming from.
Is it my neighbor's house burning or is it my house? And then when people see doors and windows opening, it makes a big difference. So if a man is following you, especially if you're a female, do not confront him because he has no good intention. Just keep going. And if he stops, when you stop, run and scream. If a man comes up to you as a woman, as a female, even a male, in a car and he puts a gun out at you and he tells you to get into the car, whatever you do, do not go into that car. Just tell him, if you're going to kill me here, but I'm not getting into that car. Because the second situation of the crime scene is always worse than the first.
Okay.
Because the first crime scene is where he abducts you. If he takes you to a village or to some river or some area and he has his friends have their way with you for a day or two and then kill you, you would much prefer to be shot on the spot. Those don't get into any stranger's car.
Then you have a situation where you get to a checkpoint. You wouldn't know which is which. Is it a military checkpoint? Is it a civilian checkpoint, if you want to call it that? What do you do in that case?
That is another good point, because here it happens all the time. Sometimes it's criminals who set up a fake checkpoint, and sometimes it's insurgents who set it up. But most of the times they tend to dress as police, or they tend to dress as the military. There's some things that you look for. Now it's going to take a little bit of guts, a little bit of thinking here.
Exactly. I was saying that it requires a lot of guts.
What you do, if they're in uniform, first of all, if the military wear the uniform properly, and so do the police, at least to some extent. The bad guys, they will just pull on a jacket, pull on a cap, pull on the boots. Their belt is out of order. They look disheveled. They don't look like professional policemen or soldiers. That's a dead giveaway that something is wrong.
Yeah.
Secondly, look at the weapons. If the police and military, they have AK-47s or standardized military weapons. If you look outside and you see RPGs and you see all of that stuff, those heavy machine guns, you may want to start thinking that this is not real. This is not the real
Doctor,
people.
not I'm just trying to cut you short here, but what about a case where you have the generality of Nigerians who do not or cannot distinguish between the kind of weapons the military makes use of and the kind of weapons these individuals or other individuals make use of?
They need to start paying attention.
So massive education.
Educate yourself. Personal, individual awareness. You can't just go through. We're living in a country that is besieged by terrorism. So if you think that you're going to just walk out of your house and not pay attention to what's going on, you got to read the news. When the news said the military captured 100 weapons from the insurgents, and there were this and this and this, Look at the photographs and see what they are. Know what those weapons are that you see the police have. Familiarize yourself with it, because if you don't know and you're not educated in the matter, I'm not saying go and take courses, but pay attention. Just read and see what's going on around you, because there's a lot of people who don't know what an AK-47 is or what it even looks like.
That is true.
So let's take it now down to the churches and mosques now. Yes, we know these are religious institutions that try to preach faith and belief to the people. But yet, so many attacks happen within this same religious institution. Now, what should be the first thing that these institutions should do to protect its members?
The church and mosque, this is serious business now. There was a time all you needed to do is go to church or mosque, you take a Bible with you or nothing, or a book to sing out of. You can't do that anymore. You have to think, first of all, think about the security of your people. You have to start now figuring out, let's just get a security committee or form a security group that's going to protect the church. Use the deacons, use the choir, use the church members, the able-bodied men and women and young boys, to create a kind of a security team, so that when members come, you know how to protect them. Set up barriers to make sure that cars can't just drive in anymore and blow up a church. Make sure that the people who come in to worship, whether it's in a mosque or a church, it's done away from the building, so that if a suicide bomber comes in and you check him, if he blows himself up, minimize the amount of people he can kill. One of the things you need to do is know the members of your church. If it's a strange man coming to your church or your mosque, you might want to pull him over and forget to find out who he is. Never mind, he might get offended. Let him get offended. At least you're saving people.
You're doing your job.
You're doing your job.
So basically now, on a final note, we know that safety begins with the individual, and there is need for that person or that individual to be aware of what's going on around him or her.
Personal awareness.
Personal awareness.
Personal awareness. As you said in the beginning, security begins with you, not with me, it's with you. And it doesn't have to be against terrorism or insurgency. It could be against the bad guy on the street who wants to hurt you or rob you or kill you or rape you. It's personal awareness. Be cognizant of what's going on around you.
All right, thank you very much, Lionel, for
I
taking
also
our
think
time.
we should have a session for children, from one particular age to another, to see how they can also help their parents when it comes to security matters.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because
Maybe next time.
one day we'll do that.
All right, thank you very much, Lionel. It's always interesting having you around, giving tips on how what people should do to remain safe. It's always impressive having you around. Thank you very much.
I'm only doing it for her, actually.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that was Lionel Rawlins, AUN Security Coordinator, with security tips to help you stay alive